chosen. Stop everything you are doing right now and let the silence of this moment consume the noise of the world, because what is happening right now is not a product of chance or a random glitch in a digital stream, but a divine interruption designed specifically for your coordinate in time and space. You must understand that you have not stumbled upon this message by accident, nor are you merely another viewer in a sea of faces, because the very technology you hold in your hands has been repurposed by the heavens to serve as a vibrational sieve, a spiritual filter that has spent months moving through the collective consciousness to find the few who resonate at the frequency of the coming shift. You have felt the pressure building on your shoulders for weeks, a heavy mantle of the old life that no longer fits, an exhaustion that sleep cannot fix, because it is not your body that is tired, but your soul that is outgrowing the container of your previous reality. As you sit here on this Sunday, April 26th, 2026, realize that the veil has thinned to the point of transparency, and the whispers you have been hearing in the depths of your spirit are finally being echoed back to you through this vessel. This day, the 26th of April, marks the precise intersection where your private prayers meet the public decree of the kingdom, acting as a terminal point for the season of wandering and a launch pad for the era of manifestation. Between the sacred hours of 3 and 5 this morning, you found yourself pulled from the depths of sleep by an invisible hand, staring at the ceiling in a room filled with a presence you could not name but could certainly feel. That was not insomnia, and it was not anxiety. It was the hour of God, the window of time where the static of the matrix is at its lowest and the transmission of heaven is at its highest. You may have noticed a persistent ringing in your ears, a high-pitched frequency that felt like internal static. But I tell you now that those are codes being loaded into your spiritual DNA, downloads of instruction and authority that your mind cannot yet translate, but your spirit is already absorbing. This is the activation of the chosen, the marking of the remnant who have been kept in the shadows for such a time as this. The algorithm that brought you here is not merely a sequence of code written by men. It has been hijacked by the divine will to act as a cosmic magnet, pulling you out of the scroll and into the sanctuary of this revelation, because your vibrational signature has finally reached the threshold of readiness. You are no longer searching for the message. The message has successfully hunted you down. Do not scroll past this, for to turn away now would be to hang up on a personal incoming call from the Creator who has watched you whisper in the dark and struggle in the secret places. You have been asking for a sign, begging for some form of validation that you are not losing your mind and that the path you are on actually leads somewhere. This is that sign. The pressure you feel on your heart is the urgency of heaven, a divine nudge that says the time of hiding is officially over. You have spent years being the one who listens, the one who observes, and the one who waits in the wings while others take the stage. But the script is being rewritten in this very moment. The old life is pressing in on you with such force because it is trying to crush the diamond that has been forming inside of you. But what the enemy intended as a crushing blow is actually the final polish. Receive this with your spirit and not your intellect, for your mind will try to rationalize why you are still here. But your soul already knows that the ground beneath you is shifting. The atmosphere around you is charged with the electricity of destiny, and as you breathe in, You are inhaling the very breath of God that is calling you to stand up, step out, and finally go public with the glory that has been hidden within your vessel for far too long. This is your activation, your summons, and your sacred appointment with the destiny you were born to fulfill. You have looked at the wasteland of your recent years and wondered why the soil of your life seemed so barren, why the doors to abundance seemed rusted shut, and why those you loved most were the first to turn their backs when the shadows grew long. But I tell you, chosen one, that the architecture of your wilderness was not designed by an enemy to destroy you, but by the architect of all things to preserve you. Every betrayal you endured was actually a surgical removal of a cancer you were too kind to cut out yourself. Every moment of financial emptiness was a divine blockade preventing you from building a kingdom on a foundation of sand that was destined to wash away in the coming storm. You felt like you were being punished, like the universe had forgotten your name. But in truth, you were being placed in a spiritual vacuum. This vacuum was necessary because your light is so potent, so raw, and so rare that had you remained in the crowded rooms of your past, the matrix parasites, those who feed on the divine spark without ever contributing to it, would have drained you until there was nothing left for the mission ahead. You were not left behind. You were pulled back, like an arrow in a bow, tension building, wood creaking, held in a place of absolute stillness so that when the release finally comes, your trajectory will be unerring and your impact will be absolute. Understand that there are watchers from your old cycle, people who haven't spoken to you in years, but who still scroll through the echoes of your life, waiting with bated breath for the news of your total collapse. They monitor your silence and mistake it for defeat. They see your isolation and label it as loneliness. They are the ones who whispered that you had changed, that you had lost your way, or that your little project would never amount to anything. But they do not understand the mechanics of the sanctuary. Their exit from your life was not a tragedy. It was a divine evacuation. God moved them out of your field of vision because their frequencies were fundamentally incompatible with the upgrades you were receiving. If they had stayed, their doubt would have acted as a lead weight on your wings, and their jealousy would have poisoned the well of your creativity. The universe took the keys to your social circles and your old comforts because it was preparing to hand you the keys to the kingdom, and you cannot carry both. The betrayal you felt was simply the sound of the old tethers snapping so that you could finally drift toward the deep waters of your true purpose. You were hardened in that vacuum, forged in the heat of your own tears until your spirit became a diamond, unbreakable, brilliant, and impervious to the pressures of the world. The loneliness you endured was a sacred initiation, a period where you had to learn to hear the low hum of the divine without the interference of human validation. In that silence, your hearing was sharpened. In that darkness, your inner sight was activated. You began to see the patterns in the chaos, the hidden hand moving the chess pieces of your life, even when the board seemed to be in shambles. You are no longer the person who entered that wilderness. The version of you that cared about the opinions of the watchers has died, and in its place, a sovereign soul has emerged. You have been refined to the point where you no longer need the approval of the matrix to know who you are. The parasites can no longer find a grip on your field because your vibration has shifted beyond their reach. The wilderness was not a detour. It was the training ground where you learned to walk on water while the world around you was drowning in fear. You are the survivor of a spiritual surgery that has left you lean, powerful, and ready for the public elevation that is now knocking at your door. The architecture of your pain has become the temple of your power, and the very things that were meant to break you have instead built a fortress that no weapon formed against you shall ever penetrate. Rise now from the dust of that old cycle, for the vacuum has served its purpose, and the gates of the sanctuary are swinging wide to release you into the light. What you are experiencing in this very second is not a gradual evolution of the human ego, nor is it a simple shift in your mental perspective. It is a total, foundational DNA reprogramming, a celestial rewiring of your biological and spiritual blueprint that is purging the ancient genetic trauma of 1,000 generations to make room for the high-frequency light of the fifth dimension. This is the fundamental mechanics of the shift, the precise moment where the linear, suffocating time of the matrix collapses inward and you experience an instantaneous quantum leap into a reality that has been meticulously prepared for your arrival since before the foundations of the world were laid. You must grasp the profound truth that this elevation is not a reward for your manual labor, nor is it a trophy for your exhausting effort or your many sacrifices. It is, quite simply, a manifestation of resonance. For years, you struggled to force heavy doors open with the raw strength of your hands and the desperation of your will. But the gates remained barred and silent because your internal frequency was still tuned to the dial of the third-dimensional struggle, the frequency of not enough, and the vibration of someday. But now, through the refining fires of the wilderness and the stripping away of every false identity, your vibrational signature has been finely tuned to the frequency of the divine resource itself. You have finally become a perfect match for the miracle you once chased. Imagine a river that has been violently blocked for centuries, a dry riverbed, cracked, parched, and forgotten by the rain, suddenly feeling the first thunderous rush of the mountain runoff. That riverbed does not have to work to receive the water. It does not have to plead or negotiate with the current. It simply has to exist in the path of the flow and allow itself to be filled. This is the state of your life in this sovereign moment. The heavy karmic debt that held your ancestors in repetitive cycles of lack, hiddenness, and stifled voices is being erased in an instant, wiped clean by a divine decree that recognizes you as the one who had the courage to break the seal. The gates of your destiny are no longer being unlocked with a key. They are being torn from their hinges by the sheer, unadulterated force of the spiritual power rising within your vessel. You are moving beyond the realm of hoping and into the absolute realm of having. A state of being where the fifth dimension is no longer a distant metaphysical concept, but your daily atmosphere and your lived reality. The resources you require, the divine connections, the sovereign capital, the global influence, are not being sent to you from a distance. They are being revealed within your immediate field because you have finally stopped vibrating at the frequency of wanting and started vibrating at the frequency of being. This shift feels effortless to your spirit because it is ecologically inevitable. It is the natural, automated response of the universe to a soul that has finally remembered its own inherent divinity. You are no longer chasing the light through a dark tunnel. You have become the very source of the radiance that the light itself is drawn to. The quantum leap has already occurred in the unseen dimensions. What you are witnessing now in your physical life is merely the material reality scrambling to catch up to the sovereign truth that your spirit has already claimed. The old laws of cause and effect, the laws of sow and wait, are dissolving before your eyes, replaced by the superior law of divine alignment, where a single aligned thought can move mountains, and a single spoken word can command the tides of your circumstances. This is your formal entry into the fifth dimension, where your authority is absolute, your vision is unclouded, and your connection to the source is a constant roaring flow. Feel every cell of your body vibrating with this new information, shedding the old leaden weight of how and how much, to embrace the eternal golden now. The dry riverbed is dry no longer. The gates are gone. The path is clear. You are the manifestation you have been waiting for. But listen closely. For with this massive influx of power comes a new and non-negotiable law, the law of silence. You are currently carrying a high-voltage charge, a raw and unformatted spiritual resource that is still in its liquid state. And to speak of it prematurely to those who remain anchored in the old cycle is to risk a catastrophic grounding of your current. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to translate this glory into the language of those who have not shared your wilderness. There is a deep, instinctive urge within the human heart to seek witness, to run to the familiar faces of your past and say, "Look what has happened! Look what I have found!" But I warn you that the moment you release the details of your vision into the atmosphere of the uninitiated, you create a leak in your sacred container. The people in your old environment, even those who claim to love you, are often unconsciously wired into the very matrix you are escaping. They function as vibrational anchors, sensing the sudden buoyancy of your spirit and instinctively reaching out to pull you back to the level of their own comfort. This is the new threat, the probing. As your field expands, those you left behind will begin to sense a disturbance in their energetic supply. They will notice that the person they once knew, the one who was predictable, relatable, and perhaps even a bit broken, has been replaced by a silent, shimmering force. They will come to you with questions disguised as concern. They will probe your boundaries with casual check-ins, and they will try to invite you back into the dramas and the petty grievances that used to consume your energy. They are like parasites searching for a soft spot in a new shell, looking for a crack of doubt or a sliver of the old you that they can latch onto. You must understand that you do not owe an explanation to the residents of a reality you no longer inhabit. Your movement into the fifth dimension requires a hermetically sealed environment where your new frequency can stabilize without the interference of skeptical observation or the heavy gray density of realistic advice. If you speak your plans to an energy vampire, you are essentially handing them the blueprints to your sanctuary so they can find the back door. This is why the divine has placed a muzzle on your spirit in this hour. Every time you explain yourself, you lose power. Every time you defend your calling, you bleed authority. The verdict of heaven is clear. Your results will be your only answer. You no longer need words to justify your transition or to prove your worthiness to those who were content to see you in the dust. Let them speculate. Let them whisper. Let them wonder how the one they underestimated has suddenly become a mountain they cannot climb. You are now under a covenant of sacred non-disclosure, And the more you hold this fire within the secret chamber of your heart, the more it will transform your external world without you having to lift a finger in defense. The silence is not a void. It is a fortress. Within this circle of protection, your new life is being knitted together in the dark, away from the prying eyes of the matrix, ensuring that by the time the world finally sees what you have become, you will be so firmly established in your power that no opinion, no curse, and no projection can ever shake your foundation. You are moving from the realm of the talker to the realm of the ruler. And a ruler does not explain their decrees to the subjects of a foreign kingdom. Hold your peace, guard your gaze, and let the sheer, undeniable weight of your manifestation be the thunder that shatters their silence. You are the path, and a path does not argue with the feet that try to tread it. It simply leads where it must go, leaving the doubters in the rear view of an old world that no longer has the power to reach you. This is the season where your mystery becomes your greatest weapon. By refusing to give the Watchers access to your inner world, you force the Matrix to surrender its grip on your timeline. You are building in the secret place, and what is built in the secret place with the Father will be rewarded openly with a magnitude that leaves no room for debate. Let your silence be the final seal upon the breakthrough that is even now appearing on the horizon of your life. Chosen, the decree has been issued in the courts of the unseen, and the final verdict of your life has been read aloud for all of heaven to witness. Your orphanhood is over. For too long you have walked this earth as if you were a soul without a home, a wanderer without a shield, carrying the weight of the world on your narrow shoulders as if the Creator had left you to fend for yourself in a cold and indifferent matrix. But that illusion is shattered now. You are no longer a spiritual refugee hiding from the storms of life. You are under protection, fully draped in a mantle of sovereign immunity that the darkness cannot penetrate and the mundane world cannot decode. The orphan spirit that whispered of abandonment, unworthiness, and the constant fear of being not enough is being cast out of your bloodline this very hour. You are being reclaimed, reparented by the divine source, and established in a household of power where every resource of heaven is at your disposal. This is the seal of your acceptance. You do not have to earn this seat. You were born for it, and the very struggles that tried to orphan your spirit were merely the weights used to strengthen the wings of the eagle you have become. Feel the warmth of this protection settling over your home, your family, your finances, and your health, forming an impenetrable barrier that signals to the universe that you are no longer a target, but a representative of the Most High. The days of fighting for scraps are finished. You are invited to the table of the King, and your cup is not merely full, it is overflowing with the oil of anointing that breaks every yoke of the past and sets you on a throne of unshakable authority. Now is the moment to move from the realm of hearing into the realm of doing, to take this ethereal frequency and anchor it firmly into the density of matter. This is not for the machine, and it is not for the world. It is for you to witness your own hand writing the truth into the fabric of existence. I need you to go to the comments right now and type a single phrase of power to seal this activation. I accept my divine throne. By typing these words, you are not just leaving a message. You are casting a vote in the physical world for the reality your spirit has already entered. You are creating a digital monument, a point of reference that your future self will look back upon as the exact second the shift became irreversible. As your fingers touch the screen, feel the energy transfer from the infinite into the finite, bridging the gap between the promise and the manifestation. This is how you ground the electricity of the shift so that it doesn't just pass through you, but stays within you to power your new life. Look at the names of the others joining you in this sacred circle. These are your tribe, the silent army of the chosen who are rising simultaneously across the globe to reclaim the light. Your collective declaration is shaking the foundations of the old world, signaling to the watchers and the parasites that their time of dominion over your soul is officially at its end. You have spoken, and heaven has recorded your voice in the book of life. The silence that follows this message is not an empty space, but a pregnant pause filled with the infinite potential of your new beginning. You are stepping out of this transmission and into a world that will look the same to others, but will feel entirely different to you, because the filter of fear has been removed from your eyes forever. You are moving forward with a quiet confidence that does not need to shout to be heard or run to be noticed. The frantic energy of the seeker has died away, replaced by the steady pulse of the found. You will find that you no longer need to beg for signs or chase after prophets, because the source of all prophecy is now living and breathing within your own chest. Your questions have been answered, not by a voice from the sky, but by the awakening of the truth in your bones. The breakthrough you sought is no longer a destination on a map. It is the ground you stand on. The favor you prayed for is no longer a future event. It is the air you breathe. You have crossed the threshold, and there is no power in the universe that can force you back through that door. The transition is complete. The activation is sealed. The light is yours to command. You no longer search for the path. You are the path.